I was 19 years old when I first joined the Legion. Before that, Rome had only been a distant idea to me. Merchants traveled the roads wearing fine cloaks from southern provinces. Tax collectors visited our village every autumn. Veterans returned home with scars, missing fingers, and stories too unbelievable for boys like me to fully understand. But the Legion itself was something different. It was iron, discipline, dust, thousands of men marching beneath crimson banners. And somehow, I was expected to become one of them. I still remember the morning I left home. My mother cried quietly while pretending not to. My younger brother followed me down the road for nearly an hour before finally stopping beside an old olive tree. Neither of us knew what to say. I believed I would return in a few years carrying silver coins and stories of glory. Most young recruits believed the same thing. We were too inexperienced to understand what war truly was. The recruiting officer barely looked at me when I arrived at the camp. He checked my height, inspected my hands, asked whether I was a Roman citizen, and then pushed me toward the training grounds without another word. My old life ended that day. Training inside the Legion was relentless. Veterans shouted constantly. Centurions watched every movement with cold, emotionless eyes. Mistakes were punished immediately. Some recruits quit within days. Others tried to run. Most were caught. We marched until our feet bled through our sandals. We trained with wooden swords heavier than real weapons. We practiced formations beneath the burning sun until our arms shook from exhaustion. Shield up. Step forward and hold the line again, again, again. Rome did not care about bravery alone. Rome wanted obedience, discipline, endurance. The Legion transformed ordinary men through exhaustion and repetition. During those first weeks, I attracted the attention of a veteran named Lucius. He was older than most soldiers in the camp, with gray beginning to appear in his beard and a scar running across one side of his face. Unlike many veterans, he rarely shouted. He simply watched. And somehow that felt worse. The first time he spoke directly to me was after a training march where I nearly collapsed from exhaustion. He looked down at my bleeding feet and said, "If you march like that during a campaign, you will die before seeing battle." Then he walked away. The next morning, before sunrise, he woke me personally and forced me to rewrap my sandals correctly. He showed me how veterans carried equipment to reduce strain on the shoulders and back. He explained how to pace breathing during long marches and how to conserve energy without falling behind the formation. Lucius never acted kindly, but he taught me things that kept me alive. Over time, I realized many veterans behaved this way. They understood that weak recruits endangered everyone around them. A frightened soldier breaking formation could kill the men beside him. A tired soldier falling behind could slow an entire column. The Legion survived because every man depended on the discipline of the others. During evening camp construction, Lucius often assigned me beside him while digging trenches or raising defensive walls. At first, I believed this was punishment. Later, I understood he was teaching me. "Watch the veterans," he once told me while sharpening wooden stakes beside the fire. "Most recruits think battle is the dangerous part." He looked toward the dark forest beyond the camp walls. Battle is only one part of war. Hunger, exhaustion, cold, disease, fear. Those kill soldiers too. At the time, I barely understood what he meant. I would soon learn. When our first campaign finally began, I understood why veterans laughed at recruits. The equipment felt endless. Shield, armor, sword, spears, tools, wooden stakes for camp defenses, cooking equipment, food, spare clothing, everything carried on our backs. The older soldiers called us Marius mules. At first, I thought it was simply another military joke. After the first week of marching, I understood the truth. The roads stretched endlessly across hills, forests, and muddy valleys. Dust filled our mouths beneath the heat. Sweat soaked our tunics under heavy armor. Men collapsed from exhaustion and were dragged back to their feet by officers before the column continued moving. Yet the Legion never truly stopped. Thousands of feet striking the earth together, standards rising above the dust, orders passing through the ranks. Rome was always moving. Every evening we stopped to build the camp. Every single evening. Trenches had to be dug, defensive walls raised, gates positioned, streets organized, guards assigned. Even after marching for hours, the labor continued deep into the night. One evening, after hours of digging through wet ground beneath freezing rain, I finally lost control of my temper. I threw down my shovel and cursed the officers loudly enough for nearby soldiers to hear. Silence spread around me immediately. Even the rain suddenly seemed quieter. Lucius walked toward me slowly. For a moment, I believed he was about to strike me. Instead, he picked up the shovel, handed it back to me, and said quietly, "The Legion does not care if you are tired." Then he returned to work without another word. Nobody laughed. Nobody spoke. I picked up the shovel and kept digging. Later that night, while we sat near the fire drying soaked clothing, Lucius finally spoke again. "Every soldier breaks eventually," he said. "The trick is learning how to continue afterward." That sentence stayed with me longer than any speech given by the officers. Food inside the Legion was simple and repetitive. Grain formed the center of nearly every meal. Bread, porridge, olives, onions, and sometimes salted meat if supplies allowed it. Hunger followed us constantly during long marches. Lucius showed me how veterans saved portions of grain during easier days because supply shortages always came eventually. "The army marches on preparation," he once muttered while dividing bread beside the fire. Not optimism. Weeks into the campaign, rumors spread through the camp that enemy raiders had been attacking Roman supply lines nearby. The atmosphere changed immediately. Veterans sharpened weapons late into the night. Officers moved constantly through the camp. Sentries doubled along the walls. Sleep became difficult. Every sound beyond the camp seemed dangerous. Every movement in the darkness pulled attention toward the tree line. Then one morning before sunrise, the order finally came. We were marching north to intercept the raiders. Nobody spoke while preparing equipment. Fear moved silently through the camp like cold wind. Even the veterans looked different, more distant, more focused. We marched through forests for most of the day beneath heavy rain. Mud slowed the column while scouts moved ahead searching for signs of the enemy. Lucius marched near the front of our formation while I remained farther back among newer recruits. Before entering the valley where the ambush would happen, he passed beside me briefly and said, "Stay close to the formation no matter what happens." Then he continued forward. That was the last calm moment before battle. The attack came suddenly. Horns echoed from the trees. Spears and arrows burst from the forest. Men shouted in confusion as soldiers fell beside the road. I remember hearing the impact of arrows against shields before fully understanding what was happening. Centurions screamed for the line to form. Veterans reacted instantly. Recruits panicked. Some froze completely. Others ran toward the trees only to disappear into the chaos. The enemy warriors rushed downhill screaming through the rain. For one terrible moment, I believed we were all about to die there in the mud. Then the veterans moved forward. Calm, disciplined. Shields locked together. Orders passing through the line. The Legion transformed from a marching column into a wall of iron. Battle in the ancient world was chaos. Not glory, not heroism, chaos. Mud pulled at our legs while men shoved and screamed around us. Training took over. Shield forward and hold the line. Stay close to the men beside you. Somewhere to my left, a recruit dropped his shield and tried to flee. An enemy spear struck him in the back before he had taken more than a few steps. I still remember seeing his body collapse into the mud. Fear nearly overwhelmed me. Then I heard Lucius shouting somewhere ahead, "Hold the line. Forward!" His voice cut through the chaos like iron striking stone. The veterans anchored the formation while newer soldiers struggled simply to survive. During the fighting, an enemy warrior crashed directly into me, knocking my shield sideways. I lost balance and fell backward into the mud. Before I could stand, the man raised an axe toward me. Then Lucius appeared. He struck the attacker aside with his shield and dragged me back toward the Roman line. "Stay on your feet," he shouted. We rejoined the formation as the legion slowly pushed the enemy backward through the rain and mud. Eventually, the enemy attack collapsed. Roman discipline and organization broke their assault apart, piece by piece. And then came the silence. Bodies covered the muddy ground. Wounded soldiers cried out for medics. Broken shields and shattered spears lay scattered beside the road. I found Lucius sitting alone near the edge of the camp after the battle ended. Blood covered one side of his armor. At first, I believed he had been wounded. Then I realized much of the blood was not his. He looked older somehow, more tired. "You survived," he said quietly when I approached. I nodded. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked him whether battle ever became easier. Lucius stared toward the dark forest outside the camp walls before answering. "No," he said. "You simply learn how to continue despite the fear." That night, while sitting beside the fire surrounded by exhausted soldiers repairing armor and sharpening weapons, I finally understood the truth about the Legion. Rome was not built only through famous generals or glorious victories. It was built through endurance, endless marching, endless labor, endless discipline. Men like Lucius had carried the empire across the world one campaign at a time. And now, whether I wanted it or not, I had become part of that machine myself.